You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today and we have another episode lined up for y'all today. Man, we have a special guest, Randy Bishop, and he's going to give us a lot of great insight. He's the creator of the Method, and that is a book that's already out on Amazon. You can get it right now. He's going to break down to us what it actually means. Just some things that a lot of people go through when they feel like they're being stuck, or they're going through some old patterns. Well, he's going to help us break us down. He has something called reflect, reframe, and restore. And we're going to learn all about that in his book, The Method, a framework of becoming. So first and foremost, I want to say to our guest, Randy, thank you for being on the show today, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for letting me come on and speak to you.
Yes, sir. So kind of unpack for us, what was your main thought process when you say, you know what, I need to write this book for these people and kind of break down what is how we are getting stuck and caught up into these old patterns that's keeping us from allowing us to just get to that next chapter.
Right, I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't write it for anyone. I wrote it for me. I really did. I had gone through a process about a year ago, woke up on Easter morning of all mornings, early, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Just my head was full. I was unhappy. I had gone through so many things, had so many questions, 59, turning 60 in a few months, and just went, is this it? Is this it? And I went out to the kitchen table, grabbed my laptop and went out and just started writing and start going through the process and start saying, what about this part of life? And what about this part of life? And I just started ripping things apart is what I did. It was organic. It was nasty in some ways. But really, I'd come to that point where I had to say to myself, I don't know where else to turn, and I'm going to turn inward. I'm going to look at me. I'm going to find out what works, what doesn't work, and I'm going to start starting from scratch. And so that's why I wrote it, just to basically document my process. And then if someone else gets to benefit from it, great. That's why I wrote it. But that's where it started, really, on Easter morning about a year ago.
Many people do feel pressure when they're trying to figure out what is the next chapter. And a lot of times we want to microwave success and say, you know what, man, just got to be a secret formula out there where I can just scroll, click, sign up, and boom, in 30 days, my life is fixed. That's not really the case, though. So for you, how did the Method help shape how you navigate the change?
Well, what I realized is I was starting to, let me just tell you first, my book is like 100 pages. Sometimes I look at books and they're just really small type and they're really big. And I thought, certainly life's got to be simpler, right? I mean, everyone from every walk of life needs to be able to look at life and analyze, for themselves. And not everybody's a scholar. Not everybody's brilliant. Not everybody has the time or the effort it takes to read something huge. So what I did is really simply document what I created for myself. And really, I love this idea of that microwave thing. Sometimes we just think we can pop it in there and, hey, look, all of a sudden everything's fine. For me, what I did is I started, and I've summed it up in 3 ways, which you've already really done great at bringing up, which is reflect, which really means I'm going to look back. I'm going to grab the things that I believe, the things that I've learned, the things that I've gone through. And many of us, let's face it, as soon as I say some of those things, you already are starting to make a list. Some of the things you've learned, some of the things you've gone through. But I started to just kind of tear apart a small list of, does this work? Do I believe this? Can I stand on this any longer? Or how does this affect me? Positive or negative? Have I ever questioned it before, and why do I believe it? I mean, I just tore through everything. So reflecting, I just went backwards. Then what I started doing little by little, and it really are bite-sized, the ideas. I started to reframe it. Okay, if this isn't something that I can stand on anymore, if this doesn't benefit my life, number one, why am I standing on it? And number two, is there something else I can learn from it? Is there another way to look at it? So I reframed those ideas. And then it was, okay, I've taken a look. I'm starting to shift some things. And now what do I do? Well, what I do next is I restore who I am with what I've learned or what I've gone through. And that's really realignment. That's really alignment. We've heard that statement thrown around here lately, alignment. And that's really making what you think and what you do line up. It's just alignment. It's not so many times where we have these ideas or these beliefs, and then we don't act anything like those beliefs. And this is just saying, okay, if I'm going to believe it, I'm going to act on it. And so I started to do that process, and it was one little thing at a time. And I realized that I was tearing apart a lot because I'd been through a lot of things in a lot of parts of life. And I started to realize, wow, I've talked to so many people who've done exactly this, and they're stuck. They don't know what to do. And I thought, let's make this process bite-sized. Let's make this process just one thing at a time, just to help everybody move along. And that's what I did for myself.
When you think about identity, and you touched on the word alignment, alignment is a popular word nowadays in multiple shows and platforms, in media in general. But it's important, like you're just saying not too long ago, that you have to look what you're actually saying. You know, you got to not just say the part, you got to actually look the part. It's like, I like throwing this out there a lot because I've been dealing with it like most other average people. You know, when you are taking care of maintenance with your car, I said this probably a few months ago that that's what alignment is. If you're not taking care of the most important, like, little things, pretty soon it's just going to add up, and then it's going to become a forceful event where you either take care of it now because now the bill has gone up, or it's going to be catastrophic and it's going to be a lot worse than what you want it to be. So you got to do it.
Yeah, stop and think of it like this. I mean, you're talking about that and as if you're the car, right? I mean, let's just say that alignment, it's important for me, right? But what happens when you put me in a relationship? If I'm not operating in my own alignment, what's that relationship operating like? I mean, then you start multiplying it out. What's it look like when I'm a part of a family? What's it look like when I'm at work? What's it look like when I'm, when I'm a host of a show? What's it look like when I'm the boss of 20 people? What's it look like when I'm not in alignment with myself, but I'm supposed to be in alignment with others? It starts to really show where if you didn't take care of your car, you're going to mess up everyone on the road. Right? I mean, it's a great little analogy, putting it right there. For me, I take it really easy. I just to help explain, I say there are people that I know, and this is the truth. There are people that I know that have supper at 6 o'clock every night. And if you ask them, why do you have supper at 6 o'clock every night? The answer will be, Mom and Dad did. Oh. Why did Mom and Dad have supper at 6 o'clock every night? Grandma and Grandpa did that. Okay. So it's not that 6 o'clock works for you. It's that I was told that supper was 6 o'clock. And so I make my life revolve around Grandma and Grandpa's time. But honestly, I get off at 5:30. I'm racing across town. There's no way I can make supper properly. I am beat when I get to the table. 6:30 would be better. But boy, we don't change from 6 to 6:30. We make ourselves out of alignment because our actions, we can't make our actions line up very good. It's that simple, right? Shift to 6:30. Make your life a little easier. Make things work for you. Or you don't have to agree with Grandma and Grandpa and Mom and Dad. It's okay. sometimes it's that simple, but we shove ourselves into these little molds that really aren't us at all. And so if we can take a look at some of the simple things like that, then we'll start to be able to tackle the big things.
That's great insight, because when we get used to doing things a certain way, then we become blind to other ways of doing things, and that goes to the hot word that's also flowing around, that's self-awareness. When you don't see the chaos that you could be causing because of old patterns and old ways of thinking, old ways of doing things, until someone who has another pair of eyes can look at you and say, hey, buddy, well, this is kind of what it looks like from this perspective. Until we're open to that, we can also continue in that chaos until we allow others to have that insight about the situation.
Others or ourselves. I mean, for the first time in 60 years, I have lived alone for the last almost year, and it's frightening. I've never lived alone. I was one of 4 kids. I went straight to college and had a roommate. Went straight from college and got married, and was married, and then went to divorced, but went to another relationship. And so when I left that relationship, I was living alone for the first time in 6 decades, and it was frightening because I didn't have anybody else looking into my life. It was just me. And I luckily had been going through this process, but I was still going through it. And sometimes I just had to go and the person that was looking into me was me. And I went and I looked into a mirror, and I would just talk to myself and say, listen, this is what you need to be looking at. This is what you need to do, because I didn't have anybody else. It was just me. And that was pretty powerful. Never did that before. But there's something about looking in your eyes, and not looking at your forehead or looking at your cheek, but looking straight in your eyes and telling yourself, hey, you're okay, but you need to change something. You know, you need to look at this. You need to look at that. There were things along the way that I threw away. There are parts of me that people who know me for years, they would say, why did you get rid of that? And my answer is because it didn't fit me. And I'm not asking anybody to like it. I'm not asking anybody to like me for doing it. I'm asking me to be me, wholly and just completely. And I've lost some friends, and some family members go, I don't get it, you know. And along the way, it's okay, because I'd rather be uniquely and fully me than someone else's version of me.
Reminds me of a conversation I had a few years ago where one of my guests was talking about operating system. If you look at life as in you have to make these updates at certain points in time, if you fail to do that, it's almost like a computer. It really strangles how you can operate on that. So with us, if we're not making these updates in our lives and say, you know what, this no longer serves me, it's time for a change. No one's going to give me the remote and change the channel for me and change my life for me. No one's going to say, hey, man, you look like you can use the upgrade. How about I help you do it for you? That's not how it works. We have to do ourselves. And that leads me to my next question, and that is part of that rebuilding self-trust? And if so, were some things that kind of erode self-trust during that major life transition, if you will, that change that you're going through?
Sure, I understand. This year I became a full-time student for the first time in 6 decades of life. And so I've decided to become a psychology major and really dig in a little harder to this. And what I learned along even just a few classes is that we're made up of a whole bunch of stuff going on inside of us. And until sometimes we just learn even some of the remote stuff of how we actually work, sure, we don't really understand ourselves. But I understand now that there's just systems in our body that takes care of us. You know, that fight and flight stuff we've heard about, that if a bear came into the room, you'd know how to run or else you're going to get eaten, right? I think what we have to do is start to trust ourselves, because our bodies kind of know. Our bodies will take care of us. You had that anxiety thing where you're standing in the store and you're looking at 2 products and you know it's not hard. You just pick one, you know, but you're just your blood is running, your temples are getting hot. You're just, and it's silly. There's just two products. Pick one. And our bodies, your temples are getting hot. You're sitting there sweating, and your body knows. Just pick one. Hey, and if you need to just back away from it, back away from it. That self-trust stuff, I think it comes along with, we just have allowed other people to define who we are. And so when we start to stand in, for lack of a better word, our own power, right? When we start to stand in our own freedom, our own agency, a lot of times there's nobody standing there beside us. There's no safety net. And we're used to having that. I know for me, I've had some great friends and some great family along, over the last year, but I've primarily been alone. And not having a safety net is scary, but it's also very freeing. So I think that self-trust comes from saying, I really can do this. And just, I hate to say that, muscle through it. I've had some days where I'm screaming. And I've had some days where I'm crying in a corner. I'm not going to lie about it, because making yourself better, for lack of a better word, making yourself more you is a process sometimes. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. But standing up, again, I go in more often than not, and I stand in that mirror, and I just remind myself who I am. And that's one of the most important things I've done. I did want to say this because it was really kind of important as I was thinking about that. There's a part of the method that I don't often talk about. And so we reflect, we reframe, we restore, and then honestly, we repeat. And that's what, when you said that system upgrade, it made me remember. The idea is you don't stop by upgrading once. You repeat it. You go back later and you go, there's got to be something else. There's got to be another upgrade I can do. So I thank you for bringing that up, because it really is my next RE right there is repeat.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guests today. You can go get a copy of the book, of Randy Bishop's book, Method. It is something that I'm telling you, it's like what you just said. You're not going to do it one time and your life is fixed. It's like tool in the toolbox. I mean, I know people heard that before, but I heard that the very first time back in my high school days. I had an instructor who actually was an instructor. He was a dean of a school I was going to, where you can get your high school classes and speed out of that into getting your associate's degree classes to get your high school diploma and associate's degree. So I say all that to say, an important thing to say about tools during life. You don't always use those tools at once, but there are times when you pick them up throughout life, and there's going to be a point in time where those tools will be useful. And his instruction was, when you start learning how those tools actually work, that's when life starts to make a little bit more sense. I mean, life is always going to be chaotic, but it's just like it's just like any other thing. So after you're done crying in the corner, you kind of pick yourself up and you say, okay, let's have a real honest discussion about this. Am I doing something to make it better, or am I doing something, contributing something to make it worse? And when we're able to make those observations on ourselves and have a truthful answer, that's when those updates actually does well. Because here's the other thing: when you don't have enough space in your hard drive, talking about letting go, there's some files you gotta let go. You gotta do some cleanup. You gotta do some maintenance. You gotta make room for what's coming.
Well, that really is reflect. I mean, making room in your hard drive. What doesn't work anymore, get rid of. Get rid of files that don't work. I mean, how many people stop and think of, what does the term father mean? What does the term husband mean? What does the term son mean? What does the term student mean? If you're no longer a student, do you have to act like one? Well, no. Okay, let's take it out. You're not that anymore. Or what about worker? What about, just fill in some blanks. What things don't you do, but you've got that taking up space? Let's get rid of it. Let's move it. Let's redefine it, maybe. What about beliefs? Those things, they're all tools that we build on ourselves, that we use to develop our lives. And isn't it true that a tool is meant to build or fix something? And if that's the case, then aren't we supposed to be building and fixing the life that we're here to live? And shouldn't that be unique and only ours? And we don't need to live someone else's life. It doesn't need to look like anybody else's. At the end of our days, I don't think I'm going to be sitting there going, wow, I'm so glad that everybody I worked for thought I was great. I'm going to say, what did I do? You know, did I make an impact? I don't care who it was. Did I make an impact on my kids? I hope so. Did I make an impact on my grandkids? Did I write a book that maybe somebody could use and it's simple, but man, it helps their life a little bit? What did I do? Or did I just go and do what everybody wanted me to do? Because that's what I found myself doing. I found myself operating like everyone expected me to. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. So pick up a tool, change it, you know?
That is the fastest way to burn out in my personal experience. I'm just speaking for Shemaiah. I'm not speaking for anybody else, so don't send me crazy emails. That's not always true. But you always got to make disclaimer on radio. But you have to stop trying to operate on what someone else believes for you. And what I mean by that is, just as a generic example, you pick your favorite sports athlete, any sport. Can you imagine what their legacy would be if they had listened to just anybody? Just anybody who had just any kind of feedback. I mean, when you talk to your doctor, do you just want generic feedback like, oh, you're okay?
Yeah.
What does okay mean? There has to be some details. I need to understand what is going on, so that way you have a great doctor, which I do. You are now informed with some information that you can operate from. See, exactly. When you're lost in life, what happens is you are so abstract in everything you do, then you wonder why you never made any progress. If there's no growth, there's no maturing, there's no adapting to challenges, then you always stay on level one. It's not about trophies, because nowadays everybody gets a participation trophy now. But it's really about, like what you're saying throughout the whole interview. What's my impact? If I can get one person to be inspired by this book because it's something I'm living or had lived, it's not just a new shiny object topic to just throw out there in the market and hope I go viral and make all these sales and get on these platforms just to do another cycle of funnel of selling. No, this is more about how can I impact lives? What is your mission? What is your purpose? Until you're actually doing it, you're really not living, you're not restoring, you're not reflecting, you're not reframing, you're not doing anything.
Right. Several months ago, I was developing just a brief 5-video series to kind of introduce it. And I showed it to a dear friend of mine, and she sat with tears in her eyes and she said, "Did you do this for me?" And I said, "No, I actually did it for me. But if it applies, you know, I'm glad it touched you. I'm glad that something
fits rare.
I'm glad something resonated in you. But honestly, I was just telling people what came out of me. I didn't write it for you. I didn't write it for this person. I didn't write it for Joe. I didn't write it for anybody. I'm just letting everybody know what I've done. I've let everybody know my process. And I think it's a necessary process. I don't think it's hard, but I don't think we're taught to do this. I don't think... we're taught to self-reflect, and we usually get books that are like this thick instead of this thick, you know, and it's too much. And we're all busy. We're all busy in our minds and busy in our lives and busy in our families. And sometimes it's just those few moments of work that we can do that if we can make them impactful, it makes a big difference. So I'm glad that even family and friends look at it sometimes and go, wow, I didn't expect that. It's like, yeah, it doesn't take much. Not really.
Another thing that makes me think about this conversation that we're having is when you think about the framework of remethod of becoming, right? It's an ongoing activity. Is not. I mean, we sound like broken record, but I think it's important to emphasize this. It's not a one-time activity, and you just crack the code, and you're not in the matrix no more. It's a little bit deeper than that. It's every day. If you subject A person wants to be great in your career or great in your field, then every day you embrace the challenges as a compliment that you have an opportunity to grow. Instead of, oh my God, here we go again. Why am I always the first one to have to go through this? Why, God? Why? Oh, so what is going on? Why am I always have to have the rain clouds? That is a defeating mindset and lifestyle that will keep you from ever achieving what you were meant to achieve. And it's not about materialistic things. It's a spiritual thing. You
absolutely.
Talking about impact, I want you to jump in here because when you think about that legacy, then those challenges is more of a compliment that, hey, you might be on the right path because I never met anybody who has had a great life who had an easy road.
Hey, you know what? Forget having a great life. Just have a great life for you. It doesn't have to be an impact like some rock star or some big foot star. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be you being a star in your story. It doesn't have to be bigger. Do I think my book's going to sell 1 million? I'll be happy if it sells 100. Okay, because I don't care who gets it. I care that the 100 that get it, it makes a difference. That's all. I really don't. I want my impact to be where I'm at and how it reaches people. As you spoke, I was reminded of. I spent 16 years in ministry. I've been a musician my whole life, and I was always the music guy in church, and so I spent 16 years doing that. And I'm reminded of one passage in the Bible that's always meant something to me, and it says basically that we're being changed from glory to glory. And the implication in that passage basically says that it's a never-ending process. It's not just you're being changed from this glory to this glory. It's the implication that it's from glory to glory to glory to glory and on and on. And it's a process. Well, that's exactly what the remethod is. It's a process that you're going to attack this one thing, and then you're going to go, hey, let's go back and we're going to move one more step, and we're going to move one more step. And that's our whole life. We should never stop growing. We should never stop developing. We should never stop moving from one glory to one glory, My hope, my desire for my life is starting with my children is that I affect them positively. And then I've taught them, hopefully, to do what I've done, which is affect someone else positively. I remember a story, my kid, they were, 3 and 6, and I love to talk to people. I'm sure you can't tell. But in this grocery store, I would have them, and I would talk to the checkout person. And I'd say, well, hello, Mary, how are you? And my oldest daughter would go, Dad, you're not supposed to talk to her. And I'd say, well, no, this is a person, and they're working, and they're serving us. And so, yeah, we're going to ask her how she's doing. And, oh, Dad, you're not supposed to do this. Well, it didn't take very many months of her going shopping with Dad before all of a sudden she walked up, and she was old enough to read, and go, hi, Mary, how are you today? And I realized that I was passing on and affecting my child, not just learning how to read or write, but I was giving her something that was powerful, the ability to use who she is to affect someone else's life, just like I had done to hers. So we are moving from glory to glory. Are we going to be rock stars, big football stars, or are we just going to affect our place? For me, I'm happy to affect wherever I go, whoever I do, but I want to do it uniquely to the way Randy does it. And I need to get rid of some of the stuff that keeps me from doing it well. And I'm going to keep going back, and I keep looking. I do that all the time. And it's not an easy process, but it's a better process than stagnating. It's a better process than living somebody else's life. And I think I'll stop right there at that one.
Well, if we had another I'll really probably keep going, but once again, I'm Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our guest today, Randy Bishop. You can get a copy of his book. It's available on Amazon, I'm sure anywhere books are sold. But the creator of the Read Method, his book, The Read Method, A Framework of Becoming, is out, available for you to get right now. We've been talking a lot. I know you all, wherever you're from, you are located, you probably ready for a snack or lunch or dinner or something. So I'm not going to keep you any further. I'm going to land the airplane on this and say, Randy, if someone wants to keep in touch and other things that you're doing, how can they find you online?
You can find me at lifelessonscoaching.net. Actually, that's my email, randy@lifelessonscoaching.net. Other than that, my book is really only on Amazon, so you can find me there, and please check it out. I'd love to help you in any way I can.
Well, like always, I want to say to you, Randy, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me be here.